show me this folder. Oh my god, Craig is recording.
At that moment, he realized he f***ed up.
I don't really care how much of that gets left in.
Hello and welcome to episode 43 of the Extreme Hardware Podcast. Today we're joined with the normal crew. We've got our good buddy Axifer.
Bonjour.
We've got our lovely editor Jack.
Hi, I'm not Axifer.
Correct. And today in person, yet again, within swinging distance, we've got Chris.
Yeah, hit my belly. Ow.
And myself, Simmons. All right. So
Andrews doesn't count.
No,
yeah, he's not real. He's a hologram.
I was going to say, actually, this is the first time that anybody has ever brought up that we never introduced Andrews on purpose.
Oh,
no one knew he was here.
Yeah, that's been a bit since episode 2.
Oh, I don't pay attention. I just kind of show up here and say things.
Yeah, you get angry a lot, and it's funny.
I do.
All right. Well, anyway, I guess the first article that we're going to talk about is everybody's current favorite thing to whack off to on the internet right now.
Porn. Oh,
well, that too. But
election results.
Shut up,
children.
Maple syrup. Covered
no.
children.
Zen 3.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I saw pictures the night before it came out because I didn't realize it was actually releasing. Just like somebody posted a picture on Twitter, like, here's a line at Micro Center. Like, God, all of these dorks, all of these just stupid nerds lining up for the next CPU.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like I shouldn't be mean to our audience, but also,
well, I mean, I was gonna say with just how like hardware, like new hardware has been sold this year. Nothing stays in stock, so I'm not surprised that people are actually lining up for this one. So yeah, so AMD just released their or they're just actually no, it hit the market, right? So yeah, Ryzen 5000 series, which includes the 5600X.
Okay, no, I'm going to interrupt. Simmons, the two articles that you pulled up were pre-release, like leaked benchmark.
Yeah.
Why do you keep doing? I really need to like.
Okay, well, the 5900X was not a pre-release benchmark, was it?
Yes, it was. From 20th.
Yeah.
But was it?
All right. Recent reviews. Yeah. So
just post a link.
I mean, there's one for each of the three, but here's the 5900X because that's the one that actually interests me because it's the big boy.
Yeah.
Yep. Same.
Long story short, $50 more expensive across the board versus Ryzen 3000, which sucks, but the 5900X and the 5950X, you can stomach it the most. Performance it's good. Like 5900X, going through the benchmarks that I've seen, it is at worst as good as a 10900K. At best, like, I don't know, 20-30% faster. It's going to be the chip that I upgrade to.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But no, it's good. It's pretty solid. I will say though, Tech Power Up didn't get a review sample for a 5950X, but Anatech did. And just looking at like apples to apples there, the 5950X is either slightly faster than a 3950X or slightly faster than a 5900X, and it is not enough to justify the dogs. I'm completely checked out on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the issue is they kept it at the same TDP. That would have been the one chip I would have seen unlock that one to like 150 watts instead out of the box, but they didn't. But it's still more cores, so it's probably the replacement for low-end Threadripper, which is why we haven't seen anything for Threadripper yet.
Well, keep in mind, Ryzen 3000 series Threadripper went they went down to 24 cores. There was no overlap between AM4 and Threadripper in core count,
which made me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. I know you and your 1900 goddamn X.
You know, I'm glad I get to see your agitated face in person about this.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
So wait, you have more PCIe lanes that you don't use?
No, he does. He's got a graphics card, Intel 750,
Wi-Fi card, capture
sound card, Wi-Fi card, capture card. Oh no, that's not a sound card. That's just a Wi-Fi card.
Yeah, but so like, I was thinking about Threadripper for my next system instead of a 5000. And hear me out. I was thinking about PCIe lanes were the main thing because I could have a gaming GPU an NVIDIA GPU for encoding for live streaming because H.264 is still better on NVIDIA, plus a capture card, plus a 10 gig network card, blah, 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 blah. But USB 3 being as good as it is, there's no reason you can't have a 10 gig to USB 3 network card. There's no reason you can't have a USB 3 to 4K 60 capture card.
I mean,
USB 3 has kind of defeated the need for having PCI Express devices.
Okay.
Purely from a performance point.
You still got to deal with the overhead. Well, that's only true with like 5 gigabit, isn't it? Because the encoding scheme is about as efficient on 10 gig, isn't it? So yeah, that's valid.
So I would say the true justification I had was because at the time I had a lot of individuals who would come to me saying, "Hey, I think my GPU has gone to crap, so could you please test it." So by throwing it into my system, I can guarantee no overhead with everything else that's already connected. I mean, I'm also running two M.2 cards.
Oh, okay.
So, no, I'm using one M.2 and one U.2. So that's PCI Express lanes right there.
Yeah. No, like storage is definitely a big one. But even then, I wouldn't say that storage is like necessary for like client systems anyway. Well, I don't think storage is really necessary to have at full speed. Because just think about how many people are satisfied with like an Intel 660p, right? You get a crappy QLC drive versus like actual high performance, sustained read-write speed type workloads.
Yeah, my counter to that is the way that motherboards actually handle the different PCI Express based objects. Because the moment that you start plugging in more PCI Express devices, it starts electronically limiting those GPUs. So like if you have both of your 16X slots populated, they will go to, on the mainstream, it usually goes to by 8 by 8.
Yes.
So now you throw in your M.2. So now it usually goes like by 8 by 4 by 4. And so on and so forth. So
what do you mean? No, it doesn't go 8 4 4.
Say what?
The main M.2 slot is still its own 4 lanes. Your 216 slots can still be 8 8.
16 for graphics, 4 for dedicated NVMe storage, 4 for a chipset uplink.
So and yes, you're correct. So now consider my setup where I have GPU, potentially a second GPU. Now the capture card that's PCI Express, the Wi-Fi card that's also PCI Express, the M.2 and the U.2. Now you have everything that's competing for those, what should be available with 24 lanes in total. But then the motherboard's just like, you've got to plug into these specific slots. We're just going to start limiting things just based on a set scheme.
Well, let's think about it this way. How many M2 or NVMe storage devices do you have in total? You have 3, correct?
Currently 2, up to 3.
Hang on. Excuse me while I open up this PC on your PC.
Right now, there's only 2.
970 Pro. Oh, okay. Those 2 are SATA. So you have 2 drives. Okay. Yeah. So your primary boot drive gets attached directly to the CPU.
Right.
Your secondary drive can be attached via the chipset. That will technically be limited. However, if you are not accessing it 24/7, and frankly, it's an Intel 750, it's not going to saturate the
anyway. No, it's not.
So that's fine. It is absolutely fine that you are technically oversampling it or oversubscribing it. Wi-Fi, it doesn't matter, dude. Like gigabit Wi-Fi is recent.
1 lane at the most.
That's not even 1 lane. Like that's half a PCI Express Gen 1 lane.
No, but specifically what I'm referring to is how the motherboard starts allocating the slots in terms of PCI.
From the chipset down, yes.
Well, the
not
chipset
the CPU
is its own thing. You would put the Wi-Fi on the chipset. You put your secondary SSD on the chipset.
Right. But needless to say, I've had issues with it in the past, especially when I was on Z170. That became a really bizarre issue where, all of a sudden, every other device is now running at 4x speed, which for like the Wi-Fi card, the capture card, didn't matter. But the second GPU, now that's running at 4x speed. Fantastic. So,
I would simply be better at building a computer.
Okay. But with this CPU...
All right, you can actually hit me now.
Yeah, I can. I've got a log here, which is an instrument that I can beat you with.
Yeah, you've also got a didgeridoo. Should I play it for the podcast?
No. By going with this kind of configuration, it guarantees that everything will have maximum lanes per device, no matter what.
Yeah,
that's what I was going for, is making it as idiot-proof as possible.
Yeah, contrast with my setup right now, my Z97 box. I've got it's Z97, so it's got a primary by 16 link. It is split into by 8 for my GPU, by 4 for my boot SSD, and then attached to the chipset, I have like I have one SSD that's running at PCI Express Gen 2 by 2, and another one that's running at Gen 2 by 1, and both of those SSDs are Gen 3 by 2.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think if I have any other crap to go in there as well. I don't remember. Z97 is really limited, and I want to upgrade if only for that reason.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, you're still running that same 5775C, correct?
You know it, baby.
And that motherboard was already on its way out.
It was already screwed up when I got it from Jack.
Hey, you knew what you bought when you got it from him.
I mean, not necessarily, but I should have expected it to be weird because I got it from Jack, and he is just a cursed man.
Love you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Please have normal computer problems from now on.
Oh no, that's never going to happen, and you know it. I mean, but like going back to Ryzen 5000.
Right, yeah.
Honestly, it looks like a great platform.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly satisfied with the mainstream. Hell, I got a mini ITX case for when I upgrade. The BitPhoenix Prodigy, the best case. So I'm kind of stuck with mainstream AMD, or at best, like Intel LGA 2066. But at that point, why bother? Because you don't get to use the PCI Express lanes anyway.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of pigeonholed myself into AM4 at this point. But no, it looks really promising. It should be a substantial upgrade over what I got. I did some ballpark math, and versus like my old quad-core part, gaming's kind of up in the air because L4 cache is magic, but for stuff like transcoding, which I've been doing a lot of because of the whole archiving all of my DVDs and stuff project, Handbrake should be about 5 times faster as long as like the disk can read fast enough. That's also good for real-time encoding because I can actually like play games and encode them, like encode captures on the CPU, so I don't have to worry about having, say, quick sync, because that was one of the reasons that I was kind of looking at Comet Lake for a bit. Don't have to deal with NVIDIA's hardware encoder either, and that actually frees up the option to go AMD should I choose.
Yep.
But probably
that's why I'm looking for 100X.
Yeah.
So quick question, Chris, for DVD transcoding. Can you not still just burn the ISO to one SSD, mount that, and then transcode from that to another SSD, and then completely negate the actual DVD ROM read speeds?
Well, what I did was I just ripped them to MP4s using MakeMKV, and I transcoded from there. But yeah, pretty much. That said, because I didn't have the disk space at the time, I am actually going to have to re-rip all of my movies now, as opposed to just all of my CDs. I'm going to have to do that a second time because I never ripped ISOs because I need hard drives. So that's cool. Costco has a deal going on. I'm going to spend several $100s probably.
Oh, on the 4 terabyte drives? Or the terabyte drives?
It was 8 terabytes, $120 each, but you have to shuck them because they're USB drives.
Right.
That voids the warranty, which is...
Who cares? They're hard drives.
Honestly, yeah.
So just for viewers that might not know what shucking is.
Shucking. That's when you buy an external drive and you pop out the drive inside it. Basically, you end up with a USB bridge, USB to SATA bridge, a nice case, and an internal hard drive.
Yep.
But the one thing to remember is that some drives, like Western Digital's, actually have the 3.3 volt pin still enabled, and you have to caption take it off because the drive will not boot if you plug into a regular power supply.
I don't remember what feature that is, but it was added in a recent SATA update. If you pull a certain pin that nearly every desktop power supply powers as 3.3 volts, if you pull that high to 3.3 volts as in a logic signal, then the drive will never spin up. And
because it knows it's connected to an actual internal drive bay instead of the external. It's like, oh, there's 3.3 volts. This is not how I'm supposed to run. Screw you guys.
I don't think that's why they do that. I think it is actually for like backplanes, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. You can also just use Molex adapters. That's cheap and ugly, but they catch on fire a lot. Or you can just hit the wire from your power cable. which again, cheap and dirty, but at least the other wires are going to be safe.
Right. It's really not that significant of an issue, honestly. Because I mean, like, if you were really concerned and you need the entire SATA power cable, then you could just get like one of those little like 4-inch extensions and just rip out the cable.
Yeah, I think realistically, what I'd end up doing if I were to do that, I would just cut the 3.3 volt wire on one of my like modular power supply cables. And if I ever needed it again, I'd probably just slice in like a toggle switch or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of a neat idea. Just putting like a little switch on. Yeah, that's
bonus points if I mount it to the case, so I can just turn off all my hard drives whenever I want.
Oh, that's funny, actually.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And actually, on the Ryzen topic.
We were talking about that.
Actually, you linked this one in regards to 2 sticks of RAM versus 4 sticks of RAM on Ryzen 5000.
Yeah, so Gamers Nexus, I guess there's been a lot of discrepancies in a lot of the reviewers for the 5000 series because, I mean, it's a pretty hyped up product that actually lived up to expectations. And there's a lot of performance differences relative to the 10900K that reviewers were doing. So Gamers Nexus actually looked into it more. They actually tried 4 sticks of just 3600 megahertz was actually performing better than 2 sticks of 3866 megahertz in a lot of cases. And normally that was not the case. Normally having 4 DIMMs on dual channel wouldn't get your performance increase. It would only hamper potential overclocking. So this is the first time in a while that we've actually had a performance increase by having 2 RAM sticks per channel.
That's not strictly true. If I remember correctly, it's not DIMMs per se; it's memory ranks. Where if
it was single rank. Was the important thing is all the Gamers Nexus sticks were single rank sticks.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, that would probably.
But yes, having 2 single rank sticks versus 1 dual rank or even 1 single rank still led to slightly more performance, even in non-memory constrained.
Oh, okay. They did test it with they tested dual rank on 2 DIMMs versus dual rank on 1 DIMM, and they found that 2 DIMMs still did better.
They did mostly single rank testing.
Well, no. I mean 2 ranks.
Oh, yes, 2 ranks per DIMM channel. Yes.
Okay.
CPU, yes.
So
and 2 ranks worked better if it was 2 physical separate sticks versus a single stick of dual rank, let's say a 16 gig single stick with tighter timing even.
Oh, okay, hang on. I'm confused now. Okay, so Gamers Nexus tested with 2 single rank DIMMs per channel. They also tested with 1 dual rank DIMM per channel. Was there any difference between these configurations?
Yes, almost every time the 4 single rank sticks pulled out higher.
Okay, even when the total number of ranks. Okay, that's interesting.
Yes, exactly. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It was anywhere from like 3 to 10%. So the 3%, obviously, that's kind of your margin of error. But the ones that's like 5 to 10%, that's a marked increase. And they're doing like 16 to 32 gigs on only game benchmarks. So you're not memory constrained. It's not the capacity at that point.
I think that lines up with my testing that I did with memory ranks on Zen 2.
Yeah, because I remember distinctly that Buildzoid was specifically talking about dual rank and single rank performance in terms of just overclocking potential. And that was a big thing. And obviously, different trace topologies for the ranks made a big difference in terms of overclocking. And that makes sense in terms of electrical noise and all that other stuff. But this is actually kind of interesting from a 4 rank versus or 4 slot versus 2 slot perspective. It almost makes it sound like each rank or channel, I should say, is per CCX in this regard.
Maybe, probably not.
So
I mean, all ranks are connected to the same bus.
Yeah, it should all go to the main unified bus in the I/O die. So that
then I don't know what would be causing this performance uplift.
So, okay, dual rank versus single rank. What will end up happening is this is a known phenomenon on other platforms. dual rank will sometimes perform slightly better with all else equal. So like, let's say 4 gigs across 2 ranks versus 4 gigs across 1 rank, let's say.
Okay.
So two ranks at 2 gigs versus 1 of 4. Sometimes the dual rank will perform better because while one rank is refreshing, like it refreshes its 8 memory chips, the other one is still active. Versus with single rank, you just have to wait.
Yeah.
So
maybe AMD has some scheduling that's actually splitting the memory banks.
Probably just memory interleaving.
But yeah.
But
so
that's still
I'm sure a lot of things at play here that might need some more research, but it's good news for people who want to save on memory prices and not pay for just too expensive sticks, and they can just buy 4 8-gig sticks instead.
Oh man, this means my computer is going to be slightly worse because it's ITX. Oh well. Yeah, there's I don't know. I'm going to have to look into the 4 DIMMs versus like 2 dual rank DIMMs. I don't know. That just sounds weird because it doesn't seem like there should logically be any other differences. And if anything,
I have
like
a Tomb Raider
6 enabled
benchmark up right now, and 4 8-gig sticks is getting a 1% low of 109 FPS, but an average of 195. So it's second on the list. And then if you jump down to the just 2 sticks of 8 gig, you're looking at 103 1% lows versus the 109 and 180 average versus the 195. So it's within like 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
Difference. I mean, it's probably not worth changing your entire build on or worrying about. Like, you're not losing performance by going 2 16-gig sticks here. It's just you might get a little bit more if you went with 4 single rank sticks instead, if you can.
Yeah. Like, it's significant enough to be measurable, but it's not significant enough that I'm going to change all my plans. Speaking of Ryzen 5000 in memory, Robert Halleck, aka Thrax, finally got unbanned on Twitter. One of the first things.
Banned?
Yeah. He tweeted something about QAnon stuff and how it's bad, and Twitter thought, "Oh crap, this guy's a QAnon fan." All right, cool, whatever. Hopefully, Google doesn't like pick that up when we upload this to YouTube. That'll be cool. Jack, bleep out the thing that I don't.
No, it's fine.
Sure.
Anyway,
I'm going.
Google does actually pick it up, but it just puts like a Wikipedia page thing underneath the video saying this is QAnon. They'll write morons.
That is extremely funny if that happens to this episode. Anyway, so Thrax said that the IO die, which as far as I know is totally unchanged from Ryzen 3000, it should be able to do DDR4 4000 at a 1-to-1 ratio with what is it, the F clock, I think.
Yeah.
But before you have to like change it to a 2-to-1 ratio and performance kind of reduces. I'm not sure if this is just binning, if they're using a new stepping, or what exactly is going on. But
I think it was the Infinity Fabric link as well. So some substrate improvements as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be.
And also the unified cache now in each CCX, instead of having 2 16 meg caches, you now have a single 32 instead.
Yeah.
Slightly better addressing. And regardless, the IO die's got to have some slight changes. It's probably underlying the same, but they had to have made some changes, or it's all microcode. It could be.
No, I don't think so. Signals are too hard to do for that to just be software.
So I want to bring this up since Jack linked it. Jack linked his article that he did on the 3950X memory testing. Was there a good point that you wanted to actually talk about in here, or you want to just give us an overview?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is from so long ago that I forget everything, and
that's fair.
Like, I do have there's relevant data in here for someone who would like to sift through what I posted here, because I presented this so bad. But
oh my god,
it would be good for comparisons that were done.
I am going. I need to take your raw data and do something with it. Like, buddy, I love you, but also you can't keep doing this to me.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Okay, fair enough.
Jack had short hair at one point.
Yeah, I did. No, I look like a pretty lady.
Jack has two distinct states: really long hair and really short hair.
God, I would turn back into my wife. She'd be cute.
Thanks.
Have Jacqueline.
All right, so I think
Jack, let me know because I'm waiting on 5,000 stock to come back in.
Okay.
I just upgraded my rig. I got an X570 with brand new power supply and all that with actual 4 8 gig single rank sticks. I might be able to offer a little bit of extra numbers if you want.
Okay. Yeah.
EHW exclusive or something.
Yeah, maybe I'll send you some of the RAM that I used for this testing because most of it's just like sitting on a table right now. So yeah.
Yeah, we can figure something out for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Give the people what they want.
Now, in other AMD related news, RX 6000 GPU announcement.
Wait, what? Do those exist?
Yeah.
They're announced.
So basically, I believe it was on the 28th. AMD had their big keynote with featuring Dr. Lisa Su.
Lisa Dr. Su. Yeah.
And basically, they're like, "Hey, we've got new GPUs coming out, and with their RX 6900 XT."
Haha, that's the sex number.
Haha,
nice.
yes.
Haha, nice.
What was the most interesting about this keynote was
Radeon actually looks like they might deliver.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to say is, rather than comparing against like previous generation Radeon stuff, like they did with the last couple generations of releases, they directly called out the NVIDIA 3090 and either matching performance or slightly exceeding in certain benchmarks.
Yeah.
Now,
AMD's trying to sell a 256-bit GPU for $1,000.
Yeah. No, I definitely want you to complain about that real quick.
Yeah, I will.
But so one of the interesting things about this is obviously everybody's freaking out about the $1,000 GPU competing with $1,500 GPU.
Ooh, wow! AMD's adopting Titan pricing. Amazing.
Great. Now, what I think was more interesting, I believe, with the 6800 XT, which is the one they're actually trying to sell. Which I believe has a retail price of either $650 or $750 based on $650. So Buildzoid from Actually Hardcore Overclocking, he did his own video on this, and this was the only video on this that I actually watched. So single source bias, but whatever. But one of the things that he pointed out in his video was not even the comparison against the NVIDIA parts, but the benchmarks that they were performing on the 6800 XT and the 6900 XT were nearly identical with a couple setting changes. The percentage difference between these two GPUs was like 5 to 10% difference.
I mean, to be fair, the 3090 and 3080 are only about 5 to 10% different.
But no, there's a big point that he made in the video, and I know I talked with you about this, Chris. But
I don't remember it, but yeah, go ahead.
Sure, but kind of going back to like the R9290 versus like the R9290X.
Oh yeah,
you get the R9290, you overclock it a little bit, and it matches the performance, or you can exceed it if you have a good chip. Basically, that's what it comes down to. He's interested, or Buildzoid specifically is interested in the 6800 XT because one, it's more affordable, and there is a chance that you'll be able to push it to the $1,000 GPU's performance with these numbers. I think that's what's the most fascinating about this is if that actually turns out to be true, we have a $650 GPU competing with what NVIDIA is claiming to be a $1,500 GPU.
Well, keep in mind there's VRAM there because AMD thinks that people will pay $1,000 for a 256-bit graphics card, and they're probably right. This is actually just laughably dumb. I mean, okay, sure, right? So the way AMD can get around this, so I think part of the reason, like a major reason GPUs have wide memory buses isn't for memory capacity, but for memory bandwidth. And you have to populate all those channels with memory chips, and that's going to drive up capacity, whoop-de-doo. But since AMD is dedicating like 24% of the transistors to on-die SRAM, which they're claiming based on the cache hit rate is like 1.6 terabytes per second bandwidth effective. So they're trying to get away with a narrow bus, but it's also just kind of insulting to say, give us $1,000 for a 256-bit card. Like even Nvidia at their worst was doing $700 for the 1080. I'm not happy with this. Actually, what really pisses me off in like parallel news, the 20 gigabyte variant of the 3080 and the 16 gigabyte variant of the 3070 have apparently been canceled. I think we're supposed to see a 3080 Ti, which just shares a core with the 3080 but is 20 gigabyte. And we're supposed to see a 3070 Ti that's been leaked in like OEM stuff, but that could very well just be an OEM only part. So if I want 16 gigs of VRAM, I'm probably going to have to go AMD because I'm not spending $1,000 friggin' dollars on a graphics card.
Pussy.
Yeah.
How much is that bandwidth actually important to you?
What's that?
What? No, I'm kidding. Continue.
Yeah, no, I was going to say something else, but I decided that it would have been a funny response to the thing Jack said.
Yeah, I called you a pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah, how dare you settle for just DXR and non-CUDA OpenCL just to get an extra 6 gigs of VRAM?
First of all,
VRAM whore.
First of all, I'm not getting a 3080 either, so it would be an extra 8. But yeah, no, honestly, if only for RTX voice. And even then, I might just go 2080 Ti, because that's going to be as good as a 3070.
Yeah.
Screw it, right? Why not?
RTX voice, I think that's like CUDA versus OpenCL is, I mean, that's going to depend on your workload. The VRAM bus width, I mean, if you're looking at a gaming card that you use in the odd time for productivity stuff, it might not affect you. The high prices are stupid. I agree with you on that one. But when it does come down to it, now that DXR is being more popular, the main thing that's missing is a competitor to RTX voice. That is the only thing right now that's pushing me to a 3080 instead of a 68 XT, is because I can do transcoded on a 5900X now. Here's an extra, like, here's 12 threads, do X264 encoding. That's going to be better than the NVENC, but I still don't have RTX voice. And that's my issue right now is I need some sort of noise cancellation.
I am also suspicious that DXR isn't going to be very good on AMD relative to NVIDIA, because as far as I can tell, AMD is only really given us benchmark numbers in rasterization. They aren't talking a whole lot about...
There was some that were leaked, but I think the issue with the AMD's approach is that the ray tracing is using the compute cores.
Yep.
So you won't be able to do compute heavy tasks and ray tracing at the same time.
Hell yeah.
Unlike NVIDIA. So that could be a downside in specific workloads, like let's say gaming plus folding at home. Won't be possible if you want to do ray traced gaming plus folding at home on an AMD 6000 series. But that's a very small, not even percentage. That's a small fractional percentage of people. So the VRAM might make a big difference though. So I don't know. It's going to be... it's going to come down to which one gets better availability is going to be a huge thing.
Yeah, the thing about the 8 gigs that gets me is that the 390 and the 390X came with 8 gig standard. I got an 8 gig RX 480. NVIDIA has had 8 gigs on their 256-bit cards for 3 generations in a row now. Hell, 4 if you count the 2000 Super Series, the refresh. I don't. That's like 3.5 generations.
Yeah, I don't get the 8 gig VRAM.
Like, the consoles are going to have more. I don't know. I think realistically, though, I think the only RTX games I'll realistically end up playing are Halo Infinite and Minecraft. So, wow.
Yeah, right.
But AMD ain't talking much about ray tracing performance, which is annoying. So that makes me suspect. Because, like, AMD can brute force rasterization, but honestly, that's about all they got. And I don't expect that to change.
So it's funny you bring up consoles at the same time, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to include this as an article or not, but there's been a lot of really great reviews and screenshots of the Xbox and PlayStation ray tracing for reflections and shadows, which is RDNA 2 based. And if that's anything to go off of, aside from being a full ray traced game, like let's say Minecraft with full ray traced everything, I think AMD is actually going to compete really well in DXR based, just shadows and reflections based games. against NVIDIA.
Oh, your benchmarks, but
so something else that I wanted to point out that was really interesting with the release, because obviously with AMD, one of the benefits they have is that they have both CPU and GPU in-house. And one of the things that they mentioned in the keynote was there's going to be some optimization that if you're running a Zen 3 processor as well as an RX 6000 series GPU, that there's going to be latency improvements with memory.
Full access to GPU memory. If I remember correctly, that's just like a PCI Express feature that AMD is trying to turn into a marketing thing. Yeah. Also, that's not going to be too beneficial because, wow, 32 gigabytes per second across a PCIe by 4 link. That's nearly 5% my GPU's memory bandwidth. Yeah,
well, I mean,
it's only going to be
so. And the reason why I was bringing this up is because there was so many people, especially on our favorite social media web platform, Twitter and Reddit, complaining that it's like, AMD is not opening up this extra latency improvements to Intel. Well, no, of course not.
I mean, if there's actually firmware things going on, sure, whatever. But if it's just honestly, who cares?
It's going to be a slight performance uplift, and I
don't think it's going to do much of anything.
No. So basically, from what I was seeing from just a highlight from the keynote, was it's like going to be a 1 to 5% performance uplift in certain applications, which is kind of neat that we are seeing that. But in
wait, 5%? That's it? That's best case?
That's my estimation from what basically, speculation and just the loose verbiage that they were using from the keynote. It's too vague, but that was a big marketing point that Lisa Su was pushing. So,
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing some testing actually being done, like across various workloads aside from gaming, just to see what the actual real world difference is.
Streaming,
if there is actually some firmware level optimizations that are being made, that's actually pretty neat.
You ever think about how weird it is that like Reddit is so horny?
You were at one point.
I really hate Reddit and Twitter. I saw a thing earlier about the PS5 running Spider-Man at 4K 30 FPS with ray tracing. And the comments are just full of people boasting about how their $4,000 PC can outperform a $400 console.
Oh wow!
Wow!
Your privilege box can play games faster than a console. Who cares? Congratulations, dude! You spent $4,000 to wave your dick around on the internet. Anyway,
all right.
And other new processor news. Let's talk about Rocket Lake.
All right,
it is a friggin' trip.
Thank you for bringing this up because I'm going to let you run with this one, buddy.
Basically, Rocket Lake is dead on arrival. So I don't remember if we mentioned it last time, but there was a bit that came out about how Rocket Lake is going to be delayed until March because the chipsets are slightly broken, like the 500 series chipsets. Something to do with USB 4, which is honestly exactly what I would expect from USB 4. But anyway, so that's getting delayed. CPUs seem to work fine, though. But they have gone from 10 core parts with Comet Lake back down to 8 core parts for Rocket Lake. It is using the Cypress Cove core. I think it's Cypress Cove. I really don't care what it is. Yeah, it is Cypress Cove. I don't really care what it is, though. It's just a Sunny Cove core that we saw on Ice Lake, but backported to 14 nanometer. Clock speeds are insane. There's been a leak floating around that it's supposed to hit 5.6 gigahertz. I find that questionable, but also given the TDPs that Intel is pushing and how mature 14 nanometer is, and since this is a new architecture, so we can't really compare it to Comet Lake, or really any Skylake derivative. It could happen.
What TDPs are they advertising?
125 base, 250 turbo.
Oh my gosh.
it's the same as Comet.
Yeah, I mean, that's still pretty substantial.
So basically, the TLDR is Intel has no way to compete with AMD and multi-core. And as a result, they are trying to get as good serial performance as possible out of these things. Hence the new architecture. And we've seen how Sunny Cove does against Skylake. Like we've seen the Ice Lake versus laptop Comet Lake benchmarks. Like it's fine. Like it's a nice uplift. And now we get to see that on desktop. The problem is Intel has had to sacrifice a lot to get to this point because power consumption is ridiculous. Like they're targeting the same TDPs with 2 fewer cores. If they're hitting like this close to 6 gigahertz on a stock part, that's utterly insane. Like you're what is that? 250 watts for the whole chip turbo. That's like 30 watts average per core. It's a time. It is a time. But also, if you look at the graphics, because they also backported the Tiger Lake graphics, didn't they? They're using Z graphics.
Right here.
Yeah, there we go. They're using Z graphics. Z was developed for 10 nanometer. They have also backported this. Intel claimed that Z and Tiger Lake would be about twice as fast as whatever in Ice Lake. I think that was 10th gen, wasn't it? Or was it 9th gen?
9th gen.
What was I don't know. Whatever.
Right here.
Regardless, it's supposed to be. I'm sorry. Give me a moment to look up what Intel Gen 9 graphics are because whatchamacallit? Not Comet Lake.
Yeah, that's on everything.
Cannon Lake kind of threw a wrench in things. Intel Gen 9. Yeah. I just need to get my bearings because Intel graphic names are slightly insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. So Gen 10 graphics were supposed to be in Cannon Lake, but they never existed. Okay, that's right. So Gen 11 was Ice Lake, and then Z is, I guess, Gen 12. But anyway, Gen 9 and Gen 9.5, which is the same thing, but I think they've got like updated encoder-decoder engines. It's the same graphics core. So the graphics are only supposed to be 50% faster in Rocket Lake than in Comet Lake. And the problem here is that Intel was promising twice as fast and like I don't remember now.
Yeah.
The previous generation. Gen 9 in mobile. God, I'm sorry, I'm going blank.
It's fine.
It doesn't have a name.
Intel has too many names to keep track of.
It's just Intel HD graphics and Iris Pro and all that shit.
Yeah,
Iris Pro,
that's branding. That's not architecture. So
it doesn't have a name. I don't even think it has an architecture name.
Yes, it does. It's Gen 9.5. That might be an internal code name, but that is what the microarchitecture is. Anyway, so what we're seeing is like half the performance game on the integrated graphics that we're supposed to, which kind of suggests that backporting to 14 nanometer was really bad for this architecture. Thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
It's not good for efficiency. And Intel is sacrificing it like as much as they can in order to get to like anything remotely competitive with AMD. But even then, that's in single thread. Because multi-thread, AMD has one. Like even at nearly 6 gigahertz, AMD can just slap on 4 more cores and they're going to win multi-core stuff. Like it's not even a contest because we already saw, right? Zen 2 was about on par with Comet Lake or Coffee Lake, and now what we're going to end up seeing is Rocket Lake about on par, clock for clock anyway, with Zen 3, which means, oh, hang on, 8 core versus 8 core. Well, good thing AMD has twice as many cores. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's dead on arrival. The only really interesting thing to note, Charlie D of Semi-Accurate disputes this, but Intel's slides are pretty clear. It will have 20 CPU-based PCI Express lanes rather than 16. So, the thing that AMD has done with Zen 3 and Zen 2 and Zen Plus and Zen and Bristol Ridge, where they put a dedicated graphics link and a by 4 link for an SSD and a by 4 link for a chipset. Intel's doing that too now, finally, with LGA 1200. I guess that's what some of the pins were for. And I don't think it's going to be supported at all on 400 series chipsets. I think you will have to have a 500 series chipset for this. Rocket will also support PCI Express Gen 4, but Like that's backwards compatible with some 400 series chipsets that spent extra money on the repeaters, but you're an idiot if you bought that because you lose out on the extra lanes, probably. I'm just assuming. Let's see, what else does Intel have? Deep learning boost? I don't know what that is. Sounds dumb.
It's like AVX 512 shit.
Oh, okay. Integrated USB 20 gigabit per second. Who cares? Like, realistically, who cares? USB 4 is around the corner anyway, and that's going to be even more nightmarish to implement and use.
Yep.
And like, who's even using 20 gig USB 3 at this point?
Well, and see, so we talked about this I would say about a month and a half ago. PC case or DIY PC case manufacturers and even OEM case manufacturers are struggling to even implement front panel USB 3.1 Gen 2 on the front panel.
Do you mean 10 gigabit or do you mean USB-C?
The USB-C.
10 gigabit.
Yeah, 10 gigabit
USB-C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most you're still seeing the old just 2-row pin connector. You're not even seeing the advanced USB connector at all on the front panel. So, it doesn't make sense. No one uses it on the front panel.
Yeah. So the trend right now is just USB 3.0, aka 3.1 Gen 1, because they had to change that for some reason.
I think they changed back the names again even more, but don't think about it too hard.
Regardless, your USB Type A ports on your front panel are going to be the old 3.0 spec, and then when you have your USB 3. Or USB Type C, it's most likely going to be 3.0 spec speeds because there is no real efficient way from an like a mechatronics automation standpoint to actually do the proper wiring and pin out for these connectors without a very expensive machine. So what a lot of these factories are doing is the 2024 wires that are required for USB 3.1 Gen 2 spec USB-C are all hand soldered.
Oh, yeah, that hasn't been automated yet. I think what we're probably going to end up seeing is like one or two. It doesn't actually say how many of these ports Rocket Lake is supposed to support natively. I think we're going to see like one or two USB-C ports that support this on the back panel, possibly with different colored plastic just to indicate that it's Speedy Boys.
Yeah, just like AMD does. You've got the blue connectors for your 10 gig ports, and you got the couple steel connectors for the 20.
Fine. But even still, looking ahead to USB 4, which we know it's going to be coming within the next year or two. So, or at least in terms of coming to like the custom
X670 AMD and 600 series Intel boards, now that they're finally in line again.
The issue that we're seeing right now is that we're not even seeing the full implementation of universal 10 gigabit USB 3.1.
And USB 4 is right around the corner.
Right, because of how complex it already is. And I don't expect USB Gen 4 to actually be able to be cost effective for widespread implementation unless they made some major underlying change. And knowing USB, they haven't.
Probably not. Yeah, no, USB should have been like, it probably should have been killed off after USB 2 and just redesigned for the next generation, because even first gen USB 3 wasn't great, but once you got into USB power delivery and USB-C in particular, it just fell apart because nobody implements the spec properly.
Correct.
I think I mentioned this before, but the Raspberry Pi, the Pi 4, which introduced USB-C, I think for power, right? It had problems because they cheaped out. They used like one resistor instead of two resistors, and they like tied two pins to the same resistor rather than using two separate resistors. And this had issues because the cable is reversible. Actually, you could solve a ton of problems with this by just making it so you can't reverse the cable. Like, that's going to make design easier, that's going to make implementation easier, but consumers are idiots and, USB is 4-dimensional, you have to rotate it 3 times to plug it in. No, you don't.
Okay, I legitimately have that problem. But I don't complain about it because I think it's fun.
Okay, here's the secret. The plastic bit of the USB port, like a Type A port, the bit where
Goes away
like
from
the
you.
pins are kind of embedded into, that is the bit on the side nearest the
Chris,
circuit.
I'm going to interrupt you right there by first of all qualifying the known fact about me that you already know, which is I can't read.
Okay, that's not even reading, dude. We're not even dealing with symbols.
No. Okay. Memes aside, though, I do agree. If USB micro wasn't such a garbage port, I would still be all for it.
USB peaked when mini USB was introduced. Prove
I
me
agree.
wrong.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I completely agree. USB mini is
Mini USB was the best.
it was.
It was durable. It was strong. It didn't break. The connector was thick enough that it just worked. And there's never I've never had an issue with my Razer. I had my original Motorola Razer V3T for 3 years. One phone, and I never had a USB issue with that. It was plugged in every night. I used the USB to headphone adapter constantly throughout the day on my bus rides to school and everything. That port never failed. The phone died first.
Yeah.
Every single one of my USB-C phones and microphones, the port's gone bad where I had to either clean it out or something.
So there's actually two things I'm going to mention real quick. One that I want to make a call back to an article that we did back in like February or March or something, where we had the Lenovo lighting USB ports that would.
Oh yeah, that was funny. They just break.
Yeah, it would actually just like fry your USB controller, which I think is a perfect example of garbage implementation of USB Type-C.
To be fair, I think that was Thunderbolt issues as well, which just means, oh my god, USB 4 is also Thunderbolt.
Yeah, actually, yes, I can actually bring actual valid proof to that. Is my Dell work laptop that has 3 USB-C ports on it, 2 of which do Thunderbolt for the dock that are side by side for the stupid USB-C docks. If I plug my Google Pixel in, my Pixel 3, with a USB 3 Type-C cable into one of the Thunderbolt ports, the laptop power cycles.
Oh.
Because of a short. If I plug it into the non-Thunderbolt USB-C port, it charges fine at rapid charging at 30-watt charging from the laptop.
Oh, you know what else?
The issue with Thunderbolt-enabled USB 3C ports are just completely broken with power delivery.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but that's the thing.
You know what else is an issue with USB-C? It's when you plug in your phone to charge, so your phone charges your laptop rather than the reverse, because they use the same cable for the host and the device.
Yeah. And I'm going to make one addendum. The best USB standard was USB Type B. Fight me.
Yeah, big printer cable.
Yeah,
it's in my butt.
Yep.
Nope. I'm gonna fight you on that. USB B 3.0.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love USB.
It's a nice big connector.
USB 3
it
Type
works.
A.
It's girthy.
Yeah. USB 3 Type A works well, but it's also really sus to have the high-speed pins that are already like bad at isolation that exposed.
Yeah.
Micro 3 is just awful. One last thing, because we were talking about CPUs and TDPs, I almost forgot. Actually, you mentioned back with the Ryzen 5000 stuff that AMD would have benefited from higher TDPs. I think this is yet another issue with AM4 because AMD has carried this socket for so many generations, they haven't really updated the thermal spec. Ryzen 1000 series went up to 95 watts, and everything since the 2000 series has gone up to 105, but they have not exceeded it since then. And if they were updating their sockets more frequently, they could also update like required cooler specs.
I don't think it's a socket issue though, because considering that the AM4 socket is not that very different than the AM3 socket aside from density.
Well, yeah.
I could run my FX8150 at 200 watts 24/7.
Well, it's for that.
It's not a socket issue, I don't think. I think it's more
that
of a...
AMD could say, oh, you're making an AM4 Plus motherboard? Well, it must support a 150 watt CPU now, as opposed to what they're doing here, where it's up to 105 watts, unless it was a very early board and maybe it only did 95.
Don't even get me started on mini HDMI. We're moving on.
No, that's DVI to USB-C. It's just the cable.
USB-C to DVI. It's got a nice little built-in adapter.
Sorry. I saw this
chip
adapter.
inside.
I saw this adapter cable that you just posted, and I thought it was mini HDMI, and I immediately got upset.
Yeah.
What's even worse? Micro HDMI. That's the thing.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Mini
Action
HDMI.
cams. It's like action cams and some like off-brand GoPros using
because
micro
I distinctly
HDMI
remember,
connector.
I have this GTX 560 Ti that has the micro HDMI port, and let me tell you, that port broke after about a week. So I'm going to touch on this article real quick, and then we'll move on. But we had an announcement a couple days ago in regards to new Iris or Intel Iris Xe or Z, as Chris said earlier.
I think that's how you're supposed to say it. It's like a Xeon, but it's just
it's Z dead GPU is what it is.
Z off.
Yeah, that's my pronoun I want you to use.
Okay. Yeah. No. You know what? I'll use that for now on, my guy.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm Z.
So anyway, the only thing I'm going to say about this is in the Intel slide deck they provided.
Simmons, will you also call Zer Nav Jacqueline?
Please.
Okay. I don't know how to respond to that. Moving on.
Z's my wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're marketing it as a gaming GPU, and it barely competes with the NVIDIA MX350. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Wait, are they doing like dual graphics-y type stuff with this, or is it just big Intel GPU, little Intel GPU, and they're totally separate?
The latter.
That's really stupid. I haven't read any of the articles for this because I didn't care.
Yeah,
I saw a mobile part and my brain glazed over.
All I'm going to say is Raja's letting us down right now.
Yeah, he is.
It's a glorified mobile part alongside an already mobile part.
Actually, if you'd mind not running your goddamn maple leaf mouth for a second, Radeon 6000 series is Raja's last whatchamacallit at AMD. So, is he letting us down?
No.
There you go. There you go. He's not letting us down.
He's not letting us down.
Next topic.
Yet.
Oh, okay, better. That's better because Radeon never delivers.
Next topic, Axie, I'll let you run through this real quick. PCI Express Gen 6.
Yeah, if Axifer were a furry, you'd be called Axifer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so PCIe Gen 6, just like 4.0 to 5.0, it's basically a 2 times bandwidth increase, generation over generation, which is what they keep expecting. It's likely going to mean, what I'm assuming with my electronics background, is less spacing between slots from CPU. So a lot less chance of having like 3 or 4 slot space. Is going to be maybe just 2 slot spacing for the 2 main slots. Chipset links might benefit from this immensely. And SSDs, maybe. I don't see them even like they're not really saturating in 4.0 yet for
I bet there's
a burst load.
Some like high performance data center drive that uses this, but not a whole lot else.
Yeah. There is a big thing they are changing to PAM4 encoding. There's a change in how they're doing the data encoding. It shouldn't change much for bandwidth. It might help with some forward error correcting, so it might be slightly more reliant communication over longer traces to maintain that speed. Yeah. Otherwise, 2021 potential release of the spec, which considering that we haven't even got PCIe 5 announced yet really on most consumer stuff.
Well, PCIe 5
not going to see this till
got finalized last year, didn't it?
I mean, on consumer devices, though. There's been no consumer devices announced with it. So we probably won't see PCIe 6 till 2023, maybe. Intel's going 2025.
It's going to have its use in like data center networking gear first, I assume.
Yeah,
I think we might see it. If anything, we're going to see it more in edge AI stuff. So like the NVIDIA compute boards and stuff that needs high bandwidth for visual processing needs. That's real time.
Yeah. So basically accelerators and networking for the most part. For now, anyway.
Yeah.
Graphics cards aren't going to benefit. Let's be honest. Like you can slap a 3090 on like a PCIe 2x8 slot. You're going to lose 5% the performance. It doesn't matter.
The big issue is that with the PCI speeds, like it doesn't matter how fast you're going to make these lanes when you still have the same number of lanes that have to transfer the data in a serial fashion, and you need compute on either end to actually compute the data going across.
Yeah.
So faster lanes gets to a point where it doesn't matter. I mean, look at the Autobahn versus a generic 12-lane US highway. Which one serves more cars per hour?
The US highways are cooler because
there's more crashes.
Yeah, sure, that one. Versus the Autobahn, where there is no speed limit, so you can't really do crimes.
I like that the Autobahn though.
But you can't do crimes.
Yeah, you can.
You can try drinking and driving.
No. You can actually get pulled over for driving too slow on the Autobahn and get a ticket.
I'm pretty sure that can occur in some states and cities.
Yeah, but it's never enforced.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. That's because we let old people drive.
Yeah.
Logan's Run had the right idea, just the wrong age.
All I'm going to say is my dad is going to be turning 65 in 2 years, and he still supports the fact that when you turn 65, you should be tested for a license update every 5 years.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Like I know this is a tangent, but I think the coolest experience that I ever had on the interstate was we had a car full of 90-year-old women. They looked like they were 90-year-old. They blew past us, flipping us off, going 100 miles an hour on the interstate, and it was awesome.
They've already got a foot in the grave beach. It doesn't matter. Here's a funny story. A friend of ours was telling us about the time that she was trying to get the keys taken away from her mom because her mom just could not drive anymore. It was dangerous. She was old. She was doing 30 and trying to do 30 on the interstate or something. She had no idea where she was, swerving and just old people driving.
Yeah.
So she tried to get the keys taken away, and there was arguing. So she got an idea. All right, look, we'll take you to the DMV. We'll do a driver's test, and if you can pass, you can keep the keys. So they got there. They did the driving test. She was watching. Her mom totally failed it. And the cop came out and said, "All right, you passed." And she was like, "What? Why?" And in private, the cop said, "Well, I felt kind of bad for her, so."
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to move on to this next topic after that tangent. But
you started it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so this
put my toes in your mouth.
Okay, I'm not going to bite your toes.
Oh, okay, thank you, but you can lick them.
No, because that's going to become the thumbnail.
It will.
You don't want your
No, it's a thumb tooth.
You can crop it to just my toes.
No. No, we're going to
his
different thumbnail.
Later.
Okay, so this
is it going to be us
this was a topic that we were initially going to talk about when Wendell was here. But you know what? He's not here now, and we can talk about it now. Adobe Flash Player in the enterprise space is coming to an end on December 31st of this year. So what does this actually mean? Adobe is killing Flash. Obviously, we've known this for a while now. And enterprise support is officially being cut off on December 1st of this year. What does that realistically mean? We're still going to be using Adobe Flash in government computers for the next 20 years.
Oh my God, yes. It's going to be great because you don't have the budget to upgrade. So oh crap, all of our applications stopped working. Help, IT. All right, fine. We'll implement the workaround real quick. Okay, thanks. It works now. No need to give you the budget to upgrade. Oh, it's going to be great.
Now I'm going to toss this over to Axie because you had some insight about this earlier.
Yeah, so my company, we actually just were running a bunch of websites that offer environmental monitoring and stuff and still use Flash-based websites with real-time maps and everything, which were upwards of 6 figures. I mean, Canadian rupees, keep in mind, so that's 4 figures US. But they were expensive to implement. It was all custom Flash code, live real-time maps that were pulled in, everything else. And when we finally went around to replacing it, now it was a $10,000 initiative with university students to implement just HTML5, Google Maps API. Here's the data and done. I mean, there's no reason to use Flash. It's just, no company wants to invest in the time to actually replace it with something else that's already out there.
So that's the issue that comes down, right? Is the biggest organizations that are really going to be hurt by this are major enterprise entities, like the U.S. government is a perfect example. I can distinctly remember when I enlisted in 2012 and seeing Windows XP on a couple of on a couple of standalone workstations because funny bit, I guess. The support's killed. applications are going to continue to be upgraded. So all this is going to mean is that major corporations who don't know how to spend money on developers to be able to replace their applications are going to continue to use old versions of software and old versions of operating system. It's basically going to be the United States ATM system all over again.
Yeah. Hey, for what it's worth, like Windows versions, Walmart self-checkout points of sale, they've upgraded to Windows 7 at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
Windows 7.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
right?
Wow. That's actually exciting. Fuck off.
Also, I'm pretty sure
a lot of fast food
that software, but
a lot of fast food places like Wendy's, Tim Hortons, all that. A lot of their training systems.
Yeah,
a lot of their training systems, they still have a training computer back in the lunchroom. That's an old beige horizontal box that a CRT monitor sits on top of, running XP, running all their flash training videos. We've actually seen a couple of those they transformed, but converted, where they basically screen recorded every option, like every selection option in the questions as video, and just created a giant HTML5 interactive video stream of basically pick your own adventure of where you click on the video to go through the other videos instead of just trying to recode it, because that was less time and effort.
I appreciate the fact that it's HTML5, but Jesus, just shoot me in the face already.
It's actually just Java and
well, it's got to be mobile, right? Because that way they could just get all their snowflakes with smartphones to watch it on their smartphones at home. They don't have to pay them to actually do it at work.
Yeah,
like here, it's HTML5. You can do it in your iPhone Safari browser.
So, I'm going to only do one more set of articles next. Because
are we doing the ones about the chicken?
We will do that in extras, actually.
Let's not do that one.
No, it's funny. It's for extras. But no, I'm going to just do this next pair of articles, and then we're going to probably do an extras recording after this. So, wake up, Chris.
No.
All right. So, SpaceX and Starlink specifically. So the first article we've got here
is the pedo guy's ISP doesn't work good.
Well, no, not that one yet.
Oh yeah.
So we're gonna get there. So SpaceX Starlink is actually going into a beta test where people can actually start, getting Starlink internet on a very limited scale. It's going to be very restricted based on region as they figure out how their satellites actually work. So it's going to be $100 a month. With a $500 upfront fee. They are guaranteeing customers up to 150 megabit per second.
Ooh.
With up to, or should I say down to, 20 millisecond latency.
Ooh.
This is still satellite internet. I expect the latency to be closer to 100 millisecond.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm being
considering that up here, I'm on the short list. I'm going to email them on the short list for the Canada beta rollout once it passes everything. But there's a lot of places here, even like enterprise and mining applications that still use DSL that barely get 10 megabit down.
Well,
and 150 milliseconds.
Have you considered that the up to and those specs are doing a lot of heavy lifting there? And let's be honest, just rolling out like 4G, 5G towers is probably going to be better.
Well, not necessarily.
So I'm talking about places that are 30. Yeah, so Chris, I'm talking about places that are like 30 to 50 kilometers outside of a small town that need internet access, where DSL and dial-up are still the only ways to connect. Only ways. There's no dial-up. There's no cable. There's not even 3G in some of these places. People have to put up their own 3G repeaters that use their home internet.
Yeah,
that only gets them Wi-Fi calling basically, and barely texting unless they have like rich text or RCS on Android or iMessage. So like Starlink is going to be huge for a lot of these areas where they don't even have better than DSL as an option.
Right.
For satellite internet, it is really good, but it's still really far off what was promised.
Yes.
And the Musk cult just ate up what was promised.
Yeah.
But $100 a month? Like if they can get minimum 25 megabits down at under 50 milliseconds,
I will simply lift your civilization.
Well,
for the price that it is really good, but it's still $100 more than what they said it would be.
Yes. Well, okay. So admittedly, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Why? It's a Musk startup.
Okay. I have to play devil's advocate for once here.
Wow, you're advocating for the devil.
Yeah,
the literal embodiment of evil. Good job, Simmons.
No, it's the little embodiment.
Well, it is for Musk, so yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's evil to be.
This is allegedly the beta test, and this is beta test pricing for these speeds. So you know what? If they can guarantee some like a 75% of what this maximum is, I will say it was successful.
Yeah, but that's just in a limited beta, not when they roll it out and oversubscribe everybody.
That's still better than LTE.
Yes. Also, the other thing I'm going to say is, and I already brought it up before on previous recording, Lemming and his Mennonite internet versus AT&T
yes.
3G to the home. So that's all I will say on that.
3G to the home. Oh.
Yeah, that's what it was. But anyway.
I would just like to say, Axie, because I want to pet your dog and also hurt you, I'm going to throw whiskey at you when I visit you, like at your head.
Well, then please come visit.
Whiskey the dog, not whiskey the drink.
I mean, either or.
So the follow-up article to this beta test is, so as of October 26th, about 3% of the Starlink satellites have failed so far.
Yeah.
The company has launched over 800 satellites, and 3% of them have failed. So we just have more space junk.
The cool part about the future is not only are we going to live in climate hell that makes this planet uninhabitable, we're not even going to be able to leave the planet because idiot space startups just flooded low Earth orbit.
Yep.
But on the plus side, things can't come to us.
Yeah.
Well,
it'll just make the deadly asteroids more deadly, because not only will there be a giant asteroid, there will be hundreds of satellites as well.
So keep in mind, the article does go on to talk about how 3% of 800, that's about 25 satellites that have lost communication of early models. It could get better, but let's assume it doesn't and it stays that bad. Currently, there are 5,500 satellites in orbit around Earth, only 2,300 of which are still operational.
Yeah.
That means there's over 2,000 satellites that aren't operational, that weren't even planned for a way to get back into orbit and burn up.
Yeah, no, because when they decommission Skylab, they splash it down. So,
wasn't there one satellite that like crash landed in Australia, and the country that launched it got sent a littering bill?
Yeah. I remember another one where in like older orbit Earth orbit based like spacewalks where things weren't regulated so much, so they just dumped their trash out the airlock essentially. Other satellites like solar panels have been damaged by like chicken bones that have been moving at high velocity.
That is extremely cool.
Yeah. But
I know there was one slight, I want to say rumor. I honestly can't remember what the article was. It was from about a month or two ago. But there was talks about how Starlink satellites that are nearing the end of their life, because they are built with enough thrust in them to be able to maneuver themselves back into orbit for a couple of decades or down into orbit to burn up, they could actually be used to take out other orbiting unresponsive satellites.
Oh, dude, I love that.
Space junk.
Basically, a demolition derby, but for satellites.
So there is a potential other use for Starlink satellites when they get decommissioned, is to take out other larger space junk to bring it down. If
that would be effective if there wasn't other debris that would just get thrown out.
Hey, it's really cool. We have anti-satellite missiles. Like those just exist.
Yeah, but there's still
that spreads it out further.
Debris that litters the atmosphere when they.
Are there any regulations about owning and launching those, by the way? Because I have a fun property crime that I would like to do that probably isn't a crime because space is presumably not in anybody's jurisdiction.
I know there's a Space Force now.
Oh, crap, you're right.
We have to wait at least 3 months for Trump to be out.
Well, it technically exists in paperwork, but I don't think they're taking any enlistments yet. So.
I'm going to enlist in the Space Force if they let me fire a needler.
And on that note, I think now's a good point to wrap up the actual recording. We're going to take a 5-minute piss break, and then we'll start up extras after that.
It takes you 5 minutes to piss, dude. You need to go to a doctor, not a ghost doctor. Simmons sees a chiropractor. They're magic ghost doctors.
Also, I want to do a bit so we can set up for thumbnail.
Does the bit involve my
toe thumbnail?
No, because you're going to put on the mask and I'm going to use the didgeridoo.
My mask is in the car.
Well, go get it. You have 5 minutes.
Break.
I don't want to go out. I took my shoes off. I'm not going out.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to episode 43 of the Extreme Harvard podcast. Stay tuned for our extras. And if you haven't already listened to the Wendell episode, please go listen to that again because Wendell is a great guy.
Yeah, we've got almost 100 views on that.
That's 5 times as much as usual. That's a huge increase.
More 20. But yeah.
All right. Thank you. And bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Hang on. Has Chris died?